We are coming to you live here from the Wisconsin Live Desk. I'm Haley Spittler. We've been monitoring breaking news for the past several hours coming to you out of Milwaukee, and that is the news of a fatal shooting. We have had our crew on scene for hours now working to learn more information. We are still working to get information from the police, which we are expected to hear momentarily. We've been told that Chief Norman will be taking to the podium to provide new information at 12:30. I can actually see him walking up to that podium. While he makes his way there, here is what we know so far. This happened earlier this morning. And the family has said that the victim is Elijah Wilkes. Again, we've only learned that from the family so far. This happened on a West Mill Ave. This is near the 49th block. All we know again so far was that the Milwaukee Examiner was called to the scene for a fatal shooting. Again, police currently walking up to the podium right now on scene where we are going to hear from Chief Norman. He should be getting there momentarily. We're going to take you out there and see what we can learn officially from police. I believe he is beginning to speak right now. We're going to go to that.
And exited their vehicles. As they were assessing the accident, the driver of the other vehicle approached the off-duty officer and pulled a firearm. That subject proceeded to strike the off-duty officer in the face with his firearm. The off-duty officer drew his department-issued firearm, and the two individuals exchanged gunfire, and the subject was struck. The subject, a 26-year-old male, was pronounced deceased at the scene. No one else was struck by the gunfire. The officer was conveyed to the hospital for treatment of injuries sustained during the incident. That officer, who discharged his duty weapon during this incident, is a 40-year-old male with over 21 years of service. The officer will be placed on administrative duty, as is routine in the officer-involved shooting investigations. The Milwaukee Area Investigative Team will be investigating this incident. The West Allis Police Department is the leading agency. The video of this incident will be released in accordance with Standard Operating Procedure 575. This is a fluid and ongoing investigation. Questions?
Chief, describe that moment. They both get out of the car. According to you, the man pistol whips the officer, and then the man fires a shot at the officer?
So, to clarify some with the comments here, there is a lot of stuff going on in social media right now, and I want to ask the public to very much have patience in regards to this process. As I just said, there will be a video that released this particular situation. Now, I'm not going to go into too much of the details, but during the time when the officer who was off duty was assessing the situation, he was struck in the mouth, and that's when there had gunfire exchange between the two of them. This was a moment where they were just looking at a minor vehicle accident. And this is a story that happens too often in our community here. How does a minor accident change into a deadly force situation? Unacceptable. We have to be better than this. There is no place for violence for these particular type of minor or even just argumentative disputes. So yes, during that incident, there was gunfire exchange.
From both parties?
Absolutely.
Who shot first?
It's still going on in regards to figuring out in regards to how this all unfolded. This is still a fluid investigation, but there were shots exchanged between both parties.
You recovered a gun on scene?
There was a firearm recovered. There was a gun, yes.
You mentioned video. The officer, I believe, was in plainclothes. Is that correct?
That's correct.
He didn't have a body camera on. What video do you have?
We have video. It will be released according to the investigative procedures that we have there, but there is video, very clear video of this incident.
Any plans to release it sooner, given the temperature 5 blocks from where we stand?
So again, let me clarify how this process works. We have a process that we work with the Fire and Police Commission about how things are released. There are certain, by the rules of engagement, that we work with our community about what is the process of releasing the video. I ask for patience, I ask for understanding that what we write aligns with what we see, but there are certain individuals who are part of this process allowed to be able to watch and see this video before everyone else does. And we're going to respect that process.
One more question. Chief, one more question.
I'm sorry, you got to speak up, ma'am.
Did the off-duty officer identify himself as a police officer to the man who was shot?
So that's still being watched in regards to getting the full details of it. I know there was words exchanged, but to the full extent of it, we don't have the information at this time, but we will be able to report out a little bit later. You had a question?
Have you seen the video? Have you watched all the surveillance video yourself, Chief?
Yes, I watched it.
And what do you see in that video?
My press statement.
Are you releasing the names of those
If
involved?
it was the officer who was hit or with the car, or the officer who hit the other car?
You got to say that question again.
Can you clarify which car hit which? If the officer hit the person who then had the gun, or vice versa?
So I know they were involved in a vehicle collision. Again, to get the details, as we're trying to report out to the community as fast as possible, we know that there was a collision that occurred. In regards to how that all transpired, we're still watching and looking at the investigation. We still have to interview, our officers being hospitalized. So it's definitely an ongoing investigation that we will update as possible. One more question now.
What are his injuries, Chief?
Was he shot?
What are his injuries?
So we don't disclose the full nature of the injuries. I know that he's getting checked out at the hospital at this time. Thank you.
All right, if you are just joining us, we were hearing there from the Milwaukee Police Chief, Jeffrey Norman, continuing to cover the breaking news that we brought you earlier this morning on Wake Up as far as a fatal shooting that happened at the 48th, 49th block of Mill Road in Milwaukee. This is the first time we've gotten some information there from the police. They told us there was some sort of a vehicle collision with an off-duty officer who was then struck by the victim of this shooting. They say that officer is recovering. They say both the victim as well as the officer did exchange gunfire. They did not clarify who fired first. They say there is a lot of video and surveillance footage that they need to sort through. This is obviously the early stages of the investigation. It's a very fluid investigation. They did say that a 26-year-old male was pronounced dead at the scene. Again, this is Mill Road in Milwaukee. Family has identified him as Elijah Wilkes. So this is, again, a fatal shooting that did involve an off-duty officer. We are working to get more information. We have several members of the FOX6 crew there on scene, and actually one of them will be joining us shortly here on the Wisconsin Live Desk with all of the information they've been able to gather over these last few hours. But again, the latest on this breaking news, we just heard from Chief Norman. This is a fatal shooting in Milwaukee near 49th and Mill that did involve an off-duty officer. We're told from police that officer was involved in a vehicle collision. They say that the other driver, the victim of this shooting, struck that off-duty officer. Gunfire from both parties was exchanged. And again, a 26-year-old male who the family has identified as Elijah Wilkes died on scene. We want to bring you the latest from that scene in just a few minutes. We'll be hearing from one of our own reporters. We know that the tensions have been high there this morning, so we do want to get you more information coming up. So we are just going to take a quick break, and then we will get some more information out of this breaking news. So stick with us.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Welcome back to the Wisconsin Live Desk. I'm Haley Spittler, and before we headed to break, we were hearing from Police Chief Norman on the latest of a breaking news situation. A fatal shooting involving an off-duty officer that happened earlier this morning at 49th and Mill Road. I want to go ahead and now bring in our very own Ashley Sears. Ashley, you have been on this scene for hours since we first heard about it earlier this morning. I know you just heard that press conference as well, so can you kind of just catch anyone up to speed who's just joining us on what we know so far happened this morning?
Yeah, hi Haley. We just got a briefing moments ago from Chief Jeffrey Norman. This is the scene out here. We're at 46th and Mill, so a different location than when we were earlier, but you can see there is still that very large police presence out here. The police chief tells us this all happened at 8:25 this morning when an off-duty police officer was involved in a minor crash on his way to work. Both drivers pulled over. Apparently, the 26-year-old, according to Chief Norman, the 26-year-old man pulled out a gun and hit the officer in the face with that weapon. We are told that the two exchanged gunfire and the 26-year-old was killed. Family has identified the man as Elijah Wilkes. We are told no one else was hit in this incident. The officer was struck in the mouth, we're told, and was taken to the hospital to be treated for his injuries. The police chief wouldn't say who shot first. He did say that a gun was recovered on the scene, and at this time he's asking for some patience and understanding. As we were out here earlier and we saw tensions very high near 51st and Mill Road. Right now, he said he knows there's a lot of videos and information circulating online asking for people to have patience and understanding, because within the next 2 weeks we will get some video released from the Milwaukee Police Department that shows a better picture of what took place.
Actually, I want to ask you, while we have you here on the Wisconsin Live Desk, you mentioned that tensions have been high at the scene this morning. I know we saw some of that actually even during the 11 a.m. newscast. Can you describe what that kind of environment has been like this morning?
Yeah, we were on the other side of the tape here at 51st and Mill. A large group of loved ones of 26-year-old Elijah Wilkes had gathered there asking for information and answers. At one point, we saw several family members run under the tape. There was a confrontation. That has kind of dispersed a little bit on the other side there. But it is all calmed down. We're going to have to move out of the way here. There's some police trucks moving through here.
That's okay. We will let you go, Ashley, while you guys move. We want to make sure that everybody is staying safe out there, so we appreciate you joining us here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. We'll see if we can check back in with Ashley again in a little bit later. But if you are just joining us, again, we've been following breaking news on a critical incident at 49th and Mill that happened earlier this morning, a little bit after 8. I think it was approximately 8:25 this morning. Again, we did hear moments ago from Police Chief Jeffrey Norman, and you could actually see him get frustrated, talking about how these things that start as minor incidents, he said, turn into such bigger and fatal situations. He said this was, a small collision between two vehicles is what he said happened and started first, and then ultimately led to weapons being fired. And as we mentioned, a 26-year-old male is now dead from this incident. So we are working to get more information. Again, they did say this is in the early stages of an investigation. They have a lot of surveillance footage that they need to go through. We're not expected to get that until about 2 weeks, but we have Ashley on scene. We have our very own Jason Calvi on scene. We are working to get you everything confirmed and verified, and then we will bring it to you here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. But again, we do now know that this is a fatal shooting involving an off-duty officer. We're told both parties involved did fire their weapons. We don't know who fired first. Police were not able to tell us that, but we were told, again, as Ashley was mentioning, that a small car crash happened, and then we're told that the off-duty police officer was hit in the face with a gun. Ultimately, again, both people did exchange gunfire, and the 26-year-old male, who family identified as Elijah Wilkes, did die there on scene. The officer was hurt from being struck in the face. We're told he is recovering at the hospital. So still a lot of information, which we will absolutely continue to cover and bring to you here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. We also just have a lot going on across the state, across the country even. Obviously, we're still in the government shutdown. I'm going to bring you to D.C. in a little bit. We'll get the latest on that. We also have the latest coming up from the Hamas-Israel ceasefire. We're told a deal has been reached. We're expected to see the 20 hostages that are still believed to be alive released, as well as some Palestinian prisoners are supposed to be released. So we'll get you the latest on that. We also will head to Orlando, where the the suspect now in the Palisades fire, the deadly California wildfires earlier this year, was expected back in federal court this morning, potentially regarding bond before extradition back to California. So again, just lots of big news stories that we're going to bring you here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. We're just going to take another quick break, and then we'll bring you the latest coming up.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Welcome back to the Wisconsin Live Desk. It is Thursday afternoon here in Milwaukee. Time check for you is 12:50. So I'll be with you guys until 2:30 here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. Then from 2:30 to 4, we are going to go full-on Brew Crew celebrations as both teams gearing up in Chicago for Game 4 of the NLDS. So stick around because we'll take you to Chicago, get you all the information you need to know if you are cheering on the Brew Crew or if you're cheering on the Chicago Cubs. You're going to want to stay tuned no matter what as we get you ready for Game 4 of the NLDS. If you missed it last night, the Cubs did pull off their first victory of the series, making it now 2-1. So if the Brewers win tonight, they advance to the NLCS. If the Cubs win tonight, they force that fifth and final game of the NLDS, which would be back then here in Milwaukee at AmFam Saturday afternoon, and then whoever won that one would be the team who advances to the NLCS. I always say don't count out the Cubs just yet. I know they dropped the first two of this series, but if you remember back in 2016 when they won the World Series, they were down 3-1. So they went on to win 3 straight to win the World Series every single game. If the Cleveland Indians back then would have won, they would have won the World Series, but they held off. So we'll have to see what happens. It's certainly been, at least last night, was a nail-biter of a game. Even in the 8th inning, I really thought the Brewers were going to take the lead, so you never know what's going to happen. I know a lot of Chicagoans, though, happy to at least have them, the games at Wrigley tonight and yesterday. So we'll definitely get you ready for all things NLDS Game 4 coming up later. But for now, we do have some more just national headlines that I want to get you to. We're actually going to take a live look here in D.C., where we're taking a look at the steps of course, Congress, Capitol Hill. We are waiting to hear from the House Minority Leader, Hakeem Jeffries. He's slated to talk closer to 1, so we'll keep our eye on this live feed, and we'll try and bring it to you here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. If we do hear from Hakeem, obviously he will be addressing the government shutdown, which continues into week 2 here now. We do know that moments ago, the Senate took another vote, and it failed once again. This was the 7th time that the Senate failed to advance a bill that would have ended the government shutdown. I actually can try and see if we can pull up even a live shot of the Senate floor. Here we go. But the senators declined again for the 7th time to advance to that final vote on a stopgap funding bill. So the 54-45 vote did fall along the same lines it has since the start of the shutdown. That is with 3 members of the Democratic caucus voting in favor and 1 Republican voting against. Otherwise, they are falling party lines as far as that vote goes there in the Senate. So again, nothing's changed since the first vote that they took up. So far, no one has budged. Democrats are still standing firm on what they want. Republicans still standing firm on what they want. And we have already started to see, some of the trickle down effects of what it looks like when the government shut down. I know I flew last weekend, and I was curious if any of the TSA checkpoints or even just my flight in general with FAA was going to see any delays. I was lucky that I didn't tend to see anything, but I do know that a few days later, Newark was actually experiencing some delays, as well as other major airports. We're taking a live look right here. This is Milwaukee Mitchell International Airport. So we know some people flying now are already seeing delays just because people are calling out sick. Keep in mind, essential government workers, they are required to still show up, but they are not getting paid while the government is shut down. They will eventually. They're going to get all that back pay, but just because, someday that your paycheck will show up doesn't mean your rent stops or your grocery bills stop or any of your other necessities and needs stop. So what happens is eventually TSA agents and these, control tower workers, they start calling out because they're not getting paid to be at work. So that leads to delays for flyers. We know a lot of other people have been worried about Social Security, which you should continue to get payments for. We are talking about food stamps and programs like that. One that was brought up earlier this week, WIC, which is Women, Infant, Children. They were funded at the beginning of this government shutdown, but it's one of those situations which once they run out of funding, then they can no longer help, the parents, the moms out there get formula with doctor's appointments, all those types of things. So we're continuing to monitor the government shutdown closely. Again, we are expecting to hear at some point from Hakeem Jeffries. That's what this shot is here in D.C. You can see the microphones all set up. And again, we're monitoring that. And once it happens, we will absolutely try and bring that to you here live on the Wisconsin Live Desk. Another big story that I want to take you out to live is actually in Orlando, Florida, We're taking a live look right now outside of a federal courthouse. You might have seen this news come down yesterday, which was that an arrest was made in the Palisades fire. If you remember, that was one of the big wildfires that took over in California earlier this year. Palisades fire was deadly. 12 people lost their lives in those flames, but so many structures, mainly homes, were destroyed. Those were some of the images where it was complete neighborhoods just gone in an instant because of the wildfire there. And we did learn now that Jonathan Rinderknecht, he is facing charges for starting that fire. So he appeared in federal court earlier this morning. Federal court does not allow cameras inside a courtroom. That's why we're taking a look outside. But he is accused of starting a fire that ultimately would turn into the Palisades fire. Again, that killed 12 people. It burned more than 20,000 acres, and it destroyed more than 6,000 structures in the Palisade Highlands neighborhood in California. Again, most of those 6,000 structures would have been family homes. We did learn that this morning a judge denied bond and ordered him to remain in custody pending a trial. That was the big news that we were expecting to learn out of the hearing this morning, was what a judge would decide on bond. We knew prosecutors were going to ask that he be held without bond. We can now confirm that is what a judge did decide. We did learn that Rinderknecht, again, that is the suspect, the 29-year-old Jonathan Rinderknecht, moved to Florida 5 months ago, and he was living with his sister and brother-in-law down there near Orlando. So again, he is now facing those charges of, he's accused basically of intentionally setting a fire back on New Year's Day. They say he was an Uber driver. He had finished dropping somebody off, and they say, prosecutors allege, that he was obsessed with fires and starting fires. So they say he walked, to one of the nearby trails and was watching a video on YouTube about fires, and prosecutors say that then he intentionally started one, ultimately calling 911 to report it. We're told it took firefighters 2 days to extinguish it. They thought they got all the hot spots, but unfortunately, it's that fire that rekindled and ultimately led to the Palisades fire. So again, at some point, he will need to be extradited back to California. So we are monitoring that. Our sister station out of Orlando is monitoring that, and we'll bring you any and all updates. But again, the biggest news today is that he was denied bond, so he will remain in custody pending that trial. Other big news coming out of the world, we're taking a live look right now in Jerusalem, where earlier this week, October 7th, would have marked 2 years since Hamas attacked Israel, starting that Israel-Hamas war that took place mainly in Gaza. We learned last night that Israel and Hamas have agreed to a ceasefire, and we've been working since then to really understand what exactly has been agreed upon. We heard Trump's plan that involved many phases last week. He had met with the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu at the White House, and we heard that Netanyahu had agreed to it. So we were waiting to learn if and when Hamas would agree to certain terms. But we did learn that they have agreed, as of yesterday, to pause fighting in Gaza so that the remaining hostages could be freed in the coming days. All of those Israeli hostages who Hamas has had for the last 2 years, they're believed to be 20 that are still alive. They will be freed in exchange for Palestinian prisoners. So this does accept some of the elements of that plan that President Trump and his administration did make last week. We're still waiting to learn if Hamas is going to disband. That was a big requirement of the agreement, as well as who would govern Gaza. Obviously, Israel has said it's their intention to govern, but we hear many Palestinian people say they want Palestine to be a free state. So we are still working to learn what exactly has been agreed upon, as I mentioned in this peace plan, as well as if it's a ceasefire. We know temporarily they've agreed to stop fighting so that those hostages and prisoners can be freed, but what happens next? So we do know that Trump is planning to try to get to the Middle East soon. He said that was part of his plans. He's going to address Israel's parliament. So we will just continue to follow this very closely and bring you any updates coming out of Israel and Gaza. But obviously that's a long story. 2 years that war has been underway. So at least we know of an agreement and a temporary ceasefire, and as soon as we know more information, we'll also bring that to you here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. Again, we are continuing to monitor D.C., where we should hear eventually from Hakeem Jeffries as soon as he walks down those steps and takes to the microphone podium there. We'll bring you that live so we can hear the latest on the government shutdown. If you did miss it, we were taking a live look earlier at the Senate floor. The Senate has failed to pass that temporary gap funding, short-term funding plan for the 7th time. That came down just moments ago. And again, no one has budged. So the way the vote was the first time is the way the vote is still now the 7th time, which does have 3 Democrats voting with Republicans and 1 Republican voting with Democrats. But otherwise, everybody's been along their party lines and no one is wanting to budge just yet. All right. That does it for a lot of your national headlines there. We are going to take another quick break. Then I think we're going to talk a little bit of sports. We'll get you your forecast here eventually, too. If you happen to be heading down to Chicago, I would say you already need to leave, but you really don't, guys. The game is at 8:08 tonight, which party animals. Who can stay up that late? I don't even know if I'm going to make it to the end of that game. Hopefully, whoever wins, they can get their bats kind of going at the beginning so I can go to bed after like the 3rd inning would be nice, because that's a late start. So you still have plenty of time if you somehow stumble upon some Game 4 NLDS tickets and you want to head down to Wrigley. Obviously, Wrigley does not have a roof the way that AmFam does here in Milwaukee, so weather and forecast is actually very important for anyone going down to the game. So again, we'll get you all ready for sports, maybe even throw in some Packers, because why not? And then we'll get you your weather forecast coming up a little bit closer to 1:15. But we'll be back in 2 minutes, so stick with us here on the Wisconsin Live Desk.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Welcome back to the Wisconsin Live Desk this Thursday afternoon, or as I like to call it sometimes, Baby Friday. I know some people call it Friday's dress rehearsal or Friday Eve, but I don't like that because then your brain hears the Friday first, so you get excited. So I like Baby Friday because then you hear the baby and you know, like, it's only Thursday. But hey, progress is being made this week, just like progress is being made for Wisconsin sports teams. Before we talk baseball, let's quickly talk football. Let's take a live look here at Lambeau in Green Bay. It's actually stunning in Green Bay right now. Look at that blue sky. If you missed your Packers playing on Sunday, I know so many people did. They had that 5th week bye week, but now we're back for week 6, and the Packers will be taking on the Bengals here at Lambeau. We've got game set for 3:25. I know I've been saying it already today, but or this week on Wisconsin Live Desk. I think it's a hopeful game for your Packers, for the green and the gold. The Bengals are struggling without their quarterback, and so I think it should be easy. I always feel like I should knock on wood when I say things like that, but I think that this one should be a quick and easy win for the Green Bay Packers, which also, speaking of Lambeau, you guys, we found out some really exciting concert news today. Delaney specifically told me not to bring her in, but Delaney, I want you to break the news. Who is coming to Lambeau?
Luke Combs is coming to Lambeau Field.
Luke Combs is coming to Lambeau in May, right?
Yeah, I think it's May 17th.
May 17th. Oh, yeah, Delaney and I looked it up because that's a Sunday, and we think we're going to try and get tickets, which they go on sale next week. There's a couple pre-sale options. One, if you go online and you become a member of like Luke Combs fan club, and also if you are Packers season ticket holders, there's a couple pre-sale options, and then general on sale should be, I think, next Friday. So lots of really exciting things going on there. Delaney's more of a Luke Combs fan than me. I know I said 2 songs. I learned that I actually know 3 songs, but I still think we're going to try and maybe get tickets, because what a fun experience there. I also am just going to take a very quick live shot here of Wrigley Field. Obviously, that is where the Brewers and the Cubs will be playing tonight in Game 4 of the NLDS. We're going to keep this one brief because I did just notice that Hakeem Jeffries did take the podium in D.C., so we're going to get you out there momentarily. But again, Game 4 tonight. So if the Brewers win it, they advance to the NLCS. If the Cubs do it, they will have tied up the series at 2-2, forcing that 5th game, which would be back here at AmFam. We'll talk more about the Cubs, though, coming up, and the Brewers, excuse me, coming up soon here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. But I do want to head out to D.C. again. This would be Hakeem Jeffries, the House Minority Leader. He should be talking here on the government shutdown. So let's listen in.
There's urgency of now. It's time for House Republicans to get back in town, get to the negotiating table, and get real about reopening the government and addressing the quality of life and cost of living challenges that the American people face all across the country. House Republicans canceled votes last week. House Republicans canceled votes this week. House Republicans appear ready to cancel votes next week. These people are not serious about reopening the government. Donald Trump and Republicans decided to shut down the government because they'd rather inflict that kind of pain that the American people are experiencing right now than address the health care of everyday Americans and the need to urgently extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits to avoid tens of millions of Americans from having to pay dramatically increased premiums, co-pays, and deductibles. This Republican healthcare crisis must be addressed with the fierce urgency of now. That's not a partisan position. It's a widely held view amongst the American people all across the country, which is why our position continues to be clear. We will sit down to negotiate with members of the Trump administration, with Republican leaders in the House and the Senate. We're ready to do it now, but we have to also address the Republican health care crisis. Questions?
Leader Jeffries. Thank you. Good afternoon. Yesterday, Leader Schumer indicated that the longer this goes on, this is better for the Democrats. Do you believe, as Republicans suggest, that that's a callous remark, that this is kind of a scorekeeping going on here?
House and Senate Democrats have been completely aligned, and we've taken a principled position in defense of the health care of the American people. Leader Schumer and Senate Democrats have courageously taken vote after vote against the partisan Republican spending agreement and bill because that bill continues to gut the health care of the American people. This is an extraordinary health care crisis that even Marjorie Taylor Greene recognizes is a very real thing for everyday Americans all across the country. The largest cut to Medicaid in American history that Republicans have visited upon the American people. That's a real thing. The possibility of a $536 billion cut to Medicare that will take effect at the end of this year if Congress doesn't act because of the one big ugly bill. That's a real thing. The fact that unless we extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits, tens of millions of Americans are about to experience dramatically increased premiums, copays, and deductibles by thousands of dollars per year. That's a real thing. The fact that hospitals, nursing homes, and community-based health clinics are closing all across the country, including in rural America, that's a real thing. The Republican healthcare crisis is real. It's upon us. It's devastating the country. And House Democrats partnering with Senate Democrats are standing up on principle in defense of the American people.
Leader Jeffries, have you spoken?
The president brought your name up earlier today during a cabinet meeting. Was that the first time that he has actually said your name out loud? And also, why is it important for you to have something resembling a working relationship with the president?
I guess it appears to be the first time that he has actually mentioned my name, but we obviously, more importantly, had a meeting a week ago to sit down at the White House, at the Oval Office, to try to negotiate a bipartisan spending agreement to, at the time, avoid a shutdown and also to address the Republican healthcare crisis. Unfortunately, subsequent to that Oval Office meeting, the Republican behavior has been erratic at best. Subsequent to that White House meeting, all we saw from President Trump were deep fake videos, threats to cancel projects, promises made to engage in mass firings, Republicans in the House continuing to be on vacation all across the country, and Leader Thune engaging in the classic definition of legislative insanity, which is doing the same thing over and over and over again, bringing the same partisan Republican spending bill to the Senate floor over and over and over again and expecting a different result. Things are not going to change until Republicans actually decide to get serious about a bipartisan negotiation, because our position has been well articulated in defense of the American people: cancel the cuts, lower the costs, save health care.
Leader Jeffries, have you spoken with Speaker Johnson about Congresswoman-elect Adelita Grijalva? Is he setting a precedent here that you could follow?
Well, Representative-elect Adelita Grijalva should be sworn in now. Should have happened this week. It should have happened last week. It needs to happen next week.
Leader Jeffries, you mentioned that you're willing to sit down with the Trump administration. You say that it's going to be up to President Trump to give Speaker Johnson and Leader Thune marching orders on how to resolve this issue. J.D. Vance is reportedly going to Indiana tomorrow to talk to Indiana Republicans about redrawing their maps. It appears that the president could be going to the Middle East in the aftermath of the peace agreement that was announced yesterday. Does that indicate to you that this shutdown will go on into the weekend, into next week? What are your thoughts about the administration's movements heading into the weekend as this shutdown goes on?
Donald Trump and Republicans shut the government down because they'd rather inflict pain on the American people than address the healthcare crisis that they've created. And the behavior that we continue to see, including the vice president apparently traveling to Indiana to try to rig the congressional map as part of their effort to steal the midterm elections, again reinforces the lack of seriousness in terms of their behavior, particularly as it relates to reopening the government or making sure that our military troops who are in harm's way are actually paid. And it's very unfortunate that their behavior continues to signal that they are uninterested in the type of bipartisan negotiations necessary to bring the Trump Republican shutdown to a close. I hope that changes. I hope it changes today. I hope it changes tomorrow. We'll meet with them anytime, any place, anywhere, either here at the Capitol or back in the Oval Office. But Republicans need to get serious about reopening the government. They need to get serious about reaching a spending agreement that actually makes life better for the American people, addresses the cost of living crisis that exists in America that Donald Trump promised to fix on day one, but costs haven't gone down on day one. Costs have gone up. The Trump tariffs are making life more expensive. And now, because of their refusal to deal with the Affordable Care Act tax credits, healthcare premiums are about to explode.
If you are just joining us, we've been listening in here as Hakeem Jeffries, the minority leader for the U.S. House of Representatives, has been speaking on the steps of Congress on the latest of the government shutdown. Again, that is in week 2 now. And he was saying that Democrats are going to stand firm on their stance that the short-term funding plan needs to give more for affordable health care for Americans. So right now, it doesn't look like any compromises are being made, that we see any sort of an end to the government shutdown soon. Again, we did see the 7th vote fail in the Senate about 10-20 minutes ago. So we're continuing to follow the government shutdown, but no new news to really report coming out of D.C. Really quickly, we're also monitoring now. This would be the entrance to the West Wing at the White House, where pretty soon, President Trump is expected to meet and greet with the president of Finland. That's Alexander Stubb. So we'll keep our eye on this feed and see if we can catch that moment. Usually happens pretty fast. We're usually not successful, but we will keep our eyes on that and see if we can see the president of Finland meet with President Trump. Otherwise, though, we know a lot of you guys are probably going to hit the road soon, potentially going to Chicago. We are so excited for Game 4 of the NLDS. I know some people didn't think we were even going to get to Game 4 because the Brewers, they came out strong. They won the first 2, but the Cubs, they did win it yesterday. So now we're in Game 4. So if you are curious what you should wear, what the forecast is going to be like, we're joined with our weather expert, Stephanie. No roof at Wrigley, so we got to know the weather.
Yeah, long sleeves are going to be a necessity. They, you know, all the fans yesterday, it was funny watching on TV, of course. There were many with their hoods up. There were many with blankets. You could tell that even yesterday afternoon was a little chilly with the breeze. Now tonight, Haley, the game is after 8 o'clock, meaning after sunset. Temperatures are going to be in the 50s for the majority of the game. So it is going to feel even cooler. Now we've got sunshine out there right now, but temperatures are in the 60s in Milwaukee. Now temperatures from here in Milwaukee, if you're going to a watch party, will also slowly tumble. So remember, Milwaukee, Chicago weather, it's pretty much the same here. So plan on, I hate to say bundling up, but layer up if you're going to be outdoors at any viewing parties here in Milwaukee. Make sure you have the long sleeves. Temperatures, again, heading into those hours, will be falling into the mid-50s. So it's going to feel a little cool. And here's your Wrigley forecast for Chicago. This is a live camera behind those graphics too in Chicago. So more sunshine actually right now down south than what we have here locally. But clear skies, temperatures in the 50s. The wind will be out of the east again like it was yesterday, but significantly lighter. So not really expecting that to have a huge impact on the game. Yesterday, I know that's something we were watching because it was a little bit stronger. Where Wrigley is located, when the wind is off of the lake, it keeps the balls from, going too far, but it didn't seem to have an impact yesterday. So all eyes on that game later on tonight. Game 4 at Wrigley Field. 8:08 is start time. And weather-wise, whether you're in Milwaukee or Chicago, just make sure you have those long sleeves.
I know, I feel like because we've been so spoiled lately and had like the warmer summer temperatures, people are probably thinking this won't be that cold. But I can tell you, I was lucky back in 2016 to go to Game 6 of the NLCS. Stephanie, I bought a blanket while I was there, which is also the most expensive blanket that I own because it's freezing and you're outside for hours.
Oh yeah, and think beginning of the season too here in Milwaukee, but especially at Wrigley without the roof. I went to, early season games where it was essentially still snowing and sleeting and just the breeze off of the lake, it gets you. So clearly no precip for this one, but even the slightest breeze is gonna make it feel cool.
Do you have any predictions?
No, I think the Brewers are going to win this. I don't know if it'll be tonight, but
Saturday.
I think the series is going to the Brewers.
Yeah, I think this is just a really hard series to predict because so far, I'm a Cubs fan. So far, we've crushed it in the first inning.
Yeah.
So you get your hopes up, and you're like, "Oh my gosh, we lead off homer from Michael Busch, or they made a 3-run homer," and then the Brewers they come back every single time. I thought the Brewers were going to take it yesterday in the 8th inning.
Me too. Ooh, yeah, that was tough to watch, but yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
We'll keep our eyes out. I know a lot of people have tickets for Game 5 of the NLDS, so they're probably hoping that happens. But other people are like, no, the Brewers can just clinch it tonight. We'll advance. I don't need to see Game 5.
Yeah.
So we'll keep our eye on it. All right, thanks so much for joining us, Steph. And speaking of Chicago, let's take a live look right now at Wrigley Field. It's, of course, courtesy of EarthCam, but this is where it's all going down later tonight, and you can already see those flags. They are moving, so I do think there's going to be quite the breeze tonight. I'm always curious if the wind helps or hurts because it plays a big difference, as Steph was just talking, when it comes to home runs. Wrigley, it's always fun with the bleachers when you can get a good home run there. So yeah, we'll keep our eye on that. If you are a big baseball fan and you're wondering, we do have the probable pitchers for tonight. So it will be Peralta for the Brewers, most likely. These do still say probable, so I don't want to 100% say this, but this is the latest coming out of the Major League Baseball app. And then Matthew Boyd would be the starter for the Cub, which Matthew Boyd was the all-star pitcher for the Cubs this year, but he started Game 1 and did not make it out of, I don't even know if he made it out of the first inning. He for sure did not make it out of the second inning. It was, I was in New York, and so I turned on my phone at an intermission of a show I was at, and I was like, wait, that says 9-2 and it's the second inning, so I'm just going to go ahead and turn that one off. Didn't need to follow any other updates. Just trying to see if we have any other probable starters here. Doesn't look like anything's been confirmed by either team. Obviously, they have a lot of time before the game starts. We were telling you earlier, 8:08 is when first pitch will be here for the Brewers and the Cubs in Chicago. There was potential it was going to be a little bit earlier today, but then the Phillies came back and they won against the Dodgers last night, which forced Game 4 in that division series. So because of that, they get the earlier start time today. They start at 5:08, and we get the 8:08 start time. But if hopefully it's a good game for anyone who does brave that late bedtime and stays up to watch it. Of course, there are watch parties throughout the Milwaukee area if you're not heading down to the Chicago. Oh, Delaney, do you know who I learned in our own newsroom is going to the game tonight?
Who?
Carl.
Oh, that'll be fun. I'm kind of jealous.
No, he was like, are you jealous? I'm going to the game. And I go, of course I'm jealous. My friend was there last night, and I was jealous of her. But yeah, Carl and his wife are going to the game tonight. And I asked Carl what kind of gear he was going to be wearing, because I know he's a Brewers fan, but he's married to a Cubs fan. So it sounded like he was going to go neutral. I told him he could wear baby blue because the Cubs now have these baby blue jerseys they made this year that the Brewers have already had for a while. So I feel like if you wear baby blue, you're kind of cheering for both the Cubs and the Brewers in a way. But I know his wife will be cheering on the Chicago Cubs. So we'll have to see if Carl brings good or bad luck depending on who wins or loses tonight. But again, Game 4, 8:08. And I think Sam will be down in Chicago again tonight, so we'll get you all sorts of updates. And again, we're going to go full in-depth here on the Wisconsin Live Desk starting at 2:30. So in 1 hour, we're going to go all Brewers coverage up until 4. So lots still to come for all the baseball fans. I will pop up again here that shot out of the White House. Of course, this is the entrance to the West Wing, where it's a lot calmer than it was a few moments ago, but I've been watching it, and I did not see the meet and greet happen just yet, so I don't think we missed it. But again, President Trump is set to meet with the president of Finland today, and that's what this kind of stakeout camera is for. So we will keep our eyes on that. All right, we are going to take another quick break here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. We have a lot coming up for you in the next hour, including the latest on the United Healthcare Ascension contract. Obviously, United Healthcare no longer has Ascension in network, which has created a big headache for people who are either forced to look for new doctors or look for new health insurance. So our very own Christina Van Zelst is on that story of what to do if you have United Healthcare and you also go to an Ascension doctor, and what it can mean for open enrollment, which is coming up here in a matter of weeks. We also are going to get the latest on the coolest thing made in Wisconsin, which is something we talked about not too long ago on the Wisconsin Live Desk. And yeah, so we've got a lot coming up for you in the next hour. You're going to want to stay tuned. But for now, we'll just take a quick break and we'll be back.
The Wisconsin Live Desk.
Welcome back into the Wisconsin Live Desk. I want to take us back out live to D.C. to the West Wing entrance of the White House, because during the commercial break, we were seeing all sorts of flags come by, including an American flag and a Finnish flag, because as a reminder, we are expecting, and I think we might actually catch it here on the Wisconsin Live Desk, to see President Trump meet the president of Finland, who is Alexander Stubb. So yeah, he is actually set to arrive here in D.C. Shortly. We're expecting him to have some talks with, of course, President Trump. It sounds like they'll be talking about bilateral trade, defense policy, and the war in Ukraine, which it has been a little bit since we've heard the latest between a potential peace agreement between Ukraine and Russia there. It does sound like Finland's prime minister is also set to be here at the White House today, which would be the first time that the two Finnish leaders are meeting together with Trump. So yeah, it also sounds like there might be some efforts to advance a proposal for Finnish shipyards to build icebreakers for the U.S. Coast Guard. So potentially a nice contract there between the two countries. And I'm sure that Finland would love to secure that and get that all squared away. So yeah, again, this became really active a few minutes ago. You can actually see now by the very front door that American flag and the Finnish flag on the other side. So we'll have to keep our eyes on this to see if we can catch that moment when they arrive and greet each other, which is usually something we can get on camera, but then sometimes a lot of those talks, they happen behind closed doors. So we'll keep our eye on it. I feel like I need a win this Thursday, and I feel like catching that live here on the Wisconsin Live Desk would be really nice to see and to get. I do just want to bring you guys back out to the Senate floor. Let me get that kind of up for you here on our feeds. There we go. Again, if you're wondering the latest on the government shutdown, really no news to pass along. The Senate has failed again for the 7th time to advance a bill that would end the government shutdown. We also did hear from Hakeem Jeffries with the, he's of course the minority leader for the U.S. House, on where they stand there. And he made it clear Democrats will not be backing down on their request for the Affordable Health Care Act. They want to see Medicare and Medicaid continue to be fully funded. But the latest we know, Republicans also don't want to add any extra items to this temporary kind of short-term funding bill. So no one has moved, no one has budged. We have not seen any votes change since the first Senate vote, and again, the 7th one just failed. So we will let you know, though, if any updates come out. We'll also let you know if any other lawmakers are going to be talking. We've found them multiple times now in the last 2 weeks. Sometimes they pop up, so we'll keep our eye out for that. It does look like we have a little bit more movement here at the West Wing entrance of the White House. Some more flags, some more officials moving. So maybe here we'll catch the moment of the finished president. I promise we didn't miss it. I've been watching it pretty closely, but it doesn't look like it's happening right now, you guys. But again, this will be President Trump meeting with Alexander Stubb, who is the president of Finland. Also, the prime minister of Finland is rumored to also be at this meeting, where they're kind of looking to see if they can solidify a deal for some U.S. Coast Guard icebreakers to be built in Finnish shipyards. All right, we have a lot of exciting things coming up here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. Again, we're going to get the latest on the coolest thing made in Wisconsin, which if you were joining us a few weeks ago, Delaney and I took you through the website. There were so many different options that you literally just vote on the coolest thing that you think was made in Wisconsin, and the website was chock full of all different types of things, from like craft beer to, I want to say, like pinball or skee ball. So many different options of items, and they have narrowed down that huge list to 8 items. So we'll have to see if we can get any of the inside scoop on the finalists for this year's coolest thing made in Wisconsin. I've already learned just that a lot of stuff gets made in the Badger State. So yeah, coming up shortly, we're going to get to talk to the CEO behind that contest, and we'll see if we can get the inside scoop. We're going to take another quick break here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. We'll find the feeds. They're being a little quiet for us this Thursday afternoon, so we'll monitor and see what Delaney and I can find, what we can bring you here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. And then again, coming up shortly, we'll also have the latest, and this is important for anybody who has United Healthcare, who was seeing a doctor through Ascension. We'll have the latest on what you need to know, because obviously that contract is no longer. They are no longer a network. They could not reach an agreement, so that has ended, and Ascension is now out of network for all United Healthcare patients. So we have a lot coming up. We're going to take a quick break, and then we'll see you back here in 2 minutes. Stay with us.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Welcome back to the Wisconsin Live Desk. Thanks for staying with us. I know we took an extra long break right there because someone forgot to start it. That's on me. It's been a Thursday. Hey, we're going to talk very shortly, as I mentioned, the coolest thing made in Wisconsin. And maybe for you, the coolest thing made in Wisconsin was AmFam. Let's take a live look right now here at the American Family Field, which is not where the Brewers are playing today. They're playing in Chicago. I know we've been talking about it for most of Wisconsin Live Desks. It's just such a big and exciting deal. But I want to throw up these game times for you again. The game tonight at Wrigley, start time a late one, 8:08 p.m. Now, if the Cubs pull out the victory like they did yesterday, that is going to force the Game 5 with the Milwaukee Brewers and the Chicago Cubs. That one would be back at AmFam, and that's a much earlier start time, 3:38. That's one I could probably stay awake for. But again, 8:08, that is a late game for two Central Time Zone teams. I get it. They wanted the Phillies and the Dodgers to have the earlier start time, but I would argue, I don't know. That's mean to us Midwesterners making our game start at 8:08. Let's take another live look, though, at AmFam, because we are going to talk the coolest thing made in Wisconsin. So again, if you were here a few weeks ago, Delaney and I went through this website that had all sorts of items that were they were nominated, that you could vote for and you could decide if you thought that was the coolest thing made in Wisconsin. And now we're going to hopefully see if we can learn a little bit more about this contest. I want to bring in Kurt Bauer, who is the president and CEO of WMC, joining us here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. Thanks for taking the time to chat, Kurt.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Okay, so for starters, can you just explain all about this contest? I mean, how did you guys come up with the idea of voting on the coolest thing made in Wisconsin?
We started it 10 years ago, and we started it because we wanted to promote manufacturing. So many people drive by factories or industrial parks, and you have no idea what's going on there. So we wanted to tear down those walls for at least one period of time during Manufacturing Month. October's Manufacturing Month in Wisconsin, so that people would have a sense of what's being made in their backyard. So you have a civic, statewide, national pride in what's being manufactured in Wisconsin. We make a lot of diverse and cool things. People need to know about it. So the whole point was to showcase it, and that's what the coolest thing made in Wisconsin is all about. The other thing, though, is that we are trying to promote manufacturing careers because we have a lot of jobs available. They pay 30% above the median. They're great jobs. They're not just jobs, actually, they're careers. And so we want to showcase those as well.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, that we don't always know what's going on inside some of these manufacturing plants and just how many things are made here in the Badger State. I mean, when I was going through all of the nominees this year, my mind was blown that all of this stuff is being made right here in Wisconsin. You said this is the 10th year, so I'm curious, do you know some of the past winners? What's already kind of been deemed before the coolest thing made in Wisconsin?
I don't have the list in front of me, but it started in Milwaukee with the Milwaukee 8 engine from Harley-Davidson. It was relatively new, just introduced, and it was so cool because Harley shut down their line in Milwaukee, and they brought all of their workers on stage to accept the award. So that was fantastic. The Joint Light Tactical Vehicle from Oshkosh Defense has won. Pierce fire trucks, they won with their electric fire truck. We've had really a slew. We've had some food processing things. We've had some heavy machinery. We've had small manufacturers. We've had small manufacturers. I will say this. I'll give a shout out to Northeastern Wisconsin. 4 of the 9 winners so far in this contest have come from Northeastern Wisconsin.
Oh, very interesting. Okay, so I know there were lots and lots and lots of things to choose from this year, and somehow it has been narrowed down to 8. Do we have any kind of idea what the final 8 items are?
Well, we do. We started with 148. We narrowed that down to 16, and just yesterday we revealed the final 8. I can go through them for you if you'd like.
Let's do it.
Carbless out of Plymouth. That is a carbless handcrafted cocktail in a can. Permobile out of Berlin, New Berlin, so in your neck of the woods. Custom seating system. The 38 BTR cruiser yachts out of a Kanto. Kikkoman soy sauce in Walworth, the TNT rescue systems, their extrication system for firefighters and first responders. They're out of Heartland. Sargento cheese, a brand signature name in Wisconsin, out of Plymouth. the Maple Dude out of Granton, Wisconsin. They make maple shots. It's an energy supplement. And Thousand Island Search and Rescue Airboats out of Marion. So it runs the gamut of products, and it's statewide.
I mean, yeah, that is quite the variety of types of products there for those final 8 items. Okay, so what happens next? Do we still get to vote? Who's going to decide the winner here?
We're voting right now. I didn't mean to interrupt you. We're voting right now at madeinwis.com, madeinwis.com. You can vote 1 day per email address. We'll vote until 5 o'clock on Tuesday, and then we'll have another reveal show on Wednesday, and then we will announce the winner. We'll narrow it down to 4, and then we'll announce the winner on October 23rd at our business day in Madison.
What does the winner get? Is it just bragging rights? What do you get when you're the coolest thing made in Wisconsin?
They get the trophy that's not yet unveiled. If you can see it off my left shoulder here, it's a beautiful trophy made by EK out of Fall River. They've made it every year. They bring in their interns from the local public schools, the tech ed department that helps them design and manufacture it. It's actually a beautiful trophy. It's become quite coveted. We always say the goal of this is not to find a winner, it's to promote manufacturing, but it's taken on a life of its own, and manufacturers really put a lot of effort into winning this title, Coolest Thing Made in Wisconsin.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm curious, over the last 10 years, has there been a nominated item that really stood out to you that you thought was the coolest thing made in Wisconsin?
Well, it's hard for me to say. We have 3,800 members at WMC. We're the State Manufacturers Association, so it's kind of like being a parent. You love all of your children, so I probably won't stick my neck out. I will say this, though. In 14 years of doing this job, I'm surprised every year on something made in Wisconsin that I didn't know about. So that's the purpose of the contest, to educate public policy makers, but the general public as well, about what's being made in the state of Wisconsin. It's just a fun contest designed to be a little lighthearted, but also to educate.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know you're talking about how it's really to put a spotlight there on manufacturing, which you were saying can be a great career field. So I'm curious, for anybody watching the Wisconsin Live Desk right now that is either younger and looking to get their first job or potentially do a switch in their career, how can they really get started in this sector?
Well, manufacturers often will train on the job. Sometimes you need a certification or a degree from a tech college or an apprenticeship. I'll say this, we've got 480,000 Wisconsinites working directly in manufacturing. For every one factory job, you create 3.5 jobs in other sectors of the economy like banking, transportation, energy. You get the point. They're often thought of in the past as dumb, dirty, and dangerous. Boring assembly lines. That's not the case. We do advanced manufacturing in the United States and certainly in Wisconsin. They're high tech, high pay, high skill. So if somebody's interested in getting into this field, it's really not that hard. Do some investigating in your own area. I guarantee you a manufacturer near you is looking for work.
Yeah, very cool. Okay, so before we let you go, Kurt, can you remind us all the important deadlines that we need to know for the coolest thing made in Wisconsin?
Sure, you can vote once per day per email address at madeinwis.com. That's madeinwis.com. Through Tuesday, we will announce the final 4 on Wednesday. Then you can vote again up until Business Day in Madison. That is October 23rd. So we want everyone to participate. It's a democratic process in action, right?
That's right. Your vote matters, even when it's just deciding the coolest thing made in Wisconsin. All right, thanks so much for joining us here on the Wisconsin Live Desk today, Kurt.
Thank you so much for having me. Take care. Go Brewers.
Or go Cubs. Either one works. No, I'm just kidding. Go Brewers. Go Brewers. We get it. We're here in Wisconsin. I'm obviously a Cubs fan, you guys. But that was really cool. The coolest thing made in Wisconsin. We've got the final 8 items. I mean, what a myriad of different types of products that Kurt was just telling us have made it here into the finals. I really encourage you just to go to that website because I think it's so cool to have these talking points. If maybe your friends are visiting you anytime soon, you can say, hey, this is made in Wisconsin, and this is made in Wisconsin. The Wisconsin Live Desk is made in Wisconsin. There's another coolest thing made right here in the Badger State. We're going to take another quick break because then we are going to get the latest again on United Healthcare and Ascension. I see that feed has popped up behind me, so I'm sure Christina's getting ready. She'll be able to join us here shortly because I know this is, quite the headache for anybody who has United Healthcare and is going to an Ascension doctor. especially sometimes you make those doctor's appointments, I mean, months and months and months out, and now potentially here you are having to last minute switch. Whether you're switching, finding a new doctor or finding a new healthcare insurance provider, either way, I know that can be a difficult and confusing process. So she'll be joining us here shortly on the Wisconsin Live Desk with everything you got to know. I do very quickly want to take, I was going to show you traffic times, but those have disappeared, so I won't show you them. But they were all in the green for 94 right now. So if you need to head out to make your way down to Chicago, you could totally do that today, right now, and not experience too much traffic. The closer we get to rush hour, the worse that's going to get. So even though the game's at 8:08, maybe head out early. Wrigleyville is the best. You can go to Sluggers, you can go to Old Crow. I have lots of recommendations if you need them around Wrigleyville. That's my old stomping grounds. But of course, also bring a blanket. I mean, it's going to be cold. I know the 50s don't seem that cold, but I promise when the sun goes down and you have the winds, and you're on those seats that are made of plastic, like it just gets chilly. So you're gonna want layers. I would bring the sweatshirt. I would make sure we're wearing pants or leggings, have a long sleeve, maybe under your jersey tonight, no matter if it's a Brewers or a Cubs jersey. And I do think a blanket's always a nice touch, even if you end up just sitting on it, not under it. That can help too when it's super cold, because I mentioned those seats, they just feel extra cold when the temperatures drop. But yeah, behind this, as Steph was telling us, is actually a live look. Lake Michigan, Chicago side. You can see the Willis Tower there. So rain is not most likely going to be an issue at all tonight because it is a blue sky. It's just going to be a little bit colder. But anyway, we're going to take a quick break here on the Wisconsin Live Desk, and we'll be back in 2 minutes.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Welcome back in to the Wisconsin Live Desk. Time check for you. It is 1:51 here in Milwaukee, 62 degrees. It's finally fall. I feel like fall came overnight here in Wisconsin, but I'm not complaining. Fall is my favorite season, so I will gladly take some of these cooler and crisper temperatures. As a reminder, coming up at 2:30, Mary's taking over, and we'll have all things Brewers for you until 4 p.m. Then we'll switch over to our newscast, which will continue the sports themes, getting you ready for Game 4 of the NLDS later tonight in Chicago. But for now, we want to get you ready if you have been caught up in this headache that is United Healthcare and Ascension. Obviously, if you have United Healthcare, Ascension is no longer in-network care. It is a story that our very own Christina Van Zelst has been monitoring closely. She's joining us right now here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. And I know, Christina, today for your story, you're really kind of diving in what you need to do for open enrollment, which sounds like might not even be an easy process to get a new healthcare provider there. What have you been learning today?
Yeah, as you mentioned, this has just been a headache since the last week. We know that October 1st was the deadline for both United Healthcare and Ascension to come to an agreement on a contract. That still hasn't happened. So there's been a lot of questions over the last week. Today we're focused more on the HR side of things and the open enrollment. As we know, for a lot of companies, that starts in October, November. And one of the things that we're learning through this process, we just talked with an HR expert over at Marquette. She says at this point in the game, it's too late for a lot of employers to renegotiate with other healthcare providers because their open enrollment starts in just a couple of weeks. So just what we learned today is that it'll take months before open enrollment starts for an HR or employer department to negotiate with United Healthcare, for example, in this case. So they've been negotiating and they've come to this deal, and now that will be in the open enrollment plan. So it's too late for a lot of places to remove United Healthcare completely from open enrollment. And for a lot of smaller companies, that's the only option. So it's really leaving the patients and employees at a losing situation here, because some companies that only offer United Healthcare, the other option you can do is look at a marketplace for health insurance. But as we know, that comes at a price. It's very expensive. So it's almost a lose-lose situation. And the associate professor we talked to said, hopefully there will be an agreement at some point. But when it comes to advice, she said, get a pen and paper and really get it down to the penny to see what will cost you the least in this situation. Of course, it also depends on what plan you're currently enrolled in. So it's a case-by-case basis. And the people that are impacted by this, of course, tens of thousands of people here in Wisconsin, but a lot of the people who have those long-term relationships with their doctors at Ascension, they don't want to switch. They have a complicated healthcare plan, and healthcare in itself is very complicated here in the United States. So that's another part of why this has become such a mess for people here in Wisconsin, with just nowhere to really go at this point with that open enrollment for a lot of companies coming up in the next month or so. So some people are able to just sit and wait and hope that they come to an agreement, and maybe none of this will matter. But at the same time, they're still not coming to that agreement. So it's kind of, what do you do? And there's not a lot of great options out there. So that's what we're focusing on today, is the HR side of things, what employers are probably scrambling to do with just weeks before open enrollment.
Yeah, I think it's a good reminder there. I know so many times people think, well, why not just go find a new doctor? But I mean, if you've been going to your doctor at Ascension for years and they know you and your family and your medical history, you do develop a bond and a close relationship, and you're not going to want to just leave them. So then it gets even more confusing when you're told in open enrollment, just find a new healthcare provider, if you're only given the option of United Healthcare. So I'm curious, obviously they didn't reach an agreement on their contract earlier this month. Do we know if negotiations are ongoing, or did they kind of just stop and walk away from the table?
Yeah, so they both put up corporate, if you will, statements on both of their websites. Both do say that they're open to continuing those negotiations. However, since an agreement has not been made, and October 1st was that cutoff, for the last week, United Healthcare has officially been out of network. So they're saying they're open to those negotiations. We'll have to see what happens. But just even with it being past that deadline, this is what the expert we talked to called unprecedented. This is something she hasn't experienced. She worked in HR for a long time before we talked to her today, and she said this is something her department never experienced. They knew there were some companies that maybe were in negotiations but did ultimately come to an agreement. So something that I think a lot of employers and employees are not sure what to do at this point.
Yet never reassuring when you're hearing that the times you're in are unprecedented. I'm curious, Christina, and you might not know the answer, but do we know if there's any sort of a grace period right now? If you have United Healthcare and you usually go to Ascension, I mean, sometimes you make your appointment a year in advance, or if it's a specialist, months and months and months in advance. So do we know if there's any grace period overlap, or do you need to just immediately cancel your appointments and find a new doctor?
I think that is a case-by-case basis too. One thing that the expert we talked to said that there are some plans that have continuing of care that you can look at with your HR department and see if that applies to you. So if that's something that you think applies to you, I would recommend doing that. At least that's what the professor we talked to said. But it sounds like as of October 1st, that was the deadline, and any appointments you may have are now going to likely be considered out of network. One thing you can also do is try calling, but of course we know it's hard to get an exact price on how much something is going to cost you in advance. So if you can, try calling and pushing for answers there, but it does sound like October 1st, United Healthcare officially is now out of network with Ascension.
Yeah, absolutely. We know this is a big story and it's a continuing story. So we will let you go so you can work on your story for this evening. But of course, here at Fox 6, we will let you know if any updates come out of the United Healthcare and Ascension kind of contract dispute there. Thanks so much, Christina.
Thank you.
Again, so she was just telling us kind of the latest there. If you have United Healthcare and you used to go to an Ascension doctor, it kind of sounds like this is not the news you wanted, but the ball is in your court to kind of get the answers. It sounds like it's up to you to kind of get the pen and paper out and price check and price compare and make those phone calls and see if you qualify for a continuing coverage plan, see what's available for you on the healthcare market, especially if come open enrollment, you're only going to be continued to be offered that United Healthcare if you're really wanting to stick with your Ascension doctors. Obviously, the other option here is to go to a new doctor that would be in network with United Healthcare, but not everyone wants to leave their doctor, and it's not always even the easiest thing to be seen as a new patient. So definitely a big headache here with this story, and we will continue to cover it, especially if negotiations start back up and if any deal is reached. Of course, we'll bring that to you here on the Wisconsin Live Desk and here on Fox Local. For now, we're going to take another quick break because coming up, we are going to talk all things making strides against breast cancer. Here in Milwaukee, we have the walk this Saturday, which Fox 6 is so proud to be a part of. We'll get you all the details that you need to know about that walk, but we're also going to be joined by a breast cancer survivor, or thriver as they call them, and get to hear her inspiring story and her message to you. So we're going to take a quick break, but you're not going to want to miss that interview coming up next on the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Live Desk.
Welcome back into the Wisconsin Live Desk this Thursday afternoon. Time check for you, 2:02, which means we've got another 28 minutes of news for you here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. And then again, 2:30 to 4, it is all things blue and gold, all things Brewers, Brew Crew, as they gear up for Game 4 of the NLDS down in Chicago, because the Cubs did win yesterday, which means now the series is at 2-1. So if the Brewers win tonight, they advance to the NLCS. If they lose tonight and the Cubs win, that ties things up, forces Game 5, which will be at AmFam on Saturday afternoon. And then whoever wins that game advances to the NLCS. You never know. That's why people love October baseball. You never know what's going to happen. Speaking of things that are going to happen on Saturday, it is not just potentially Game 5 of the NLDS. For sure, you can get this one on your calendar because it is going to happen no matter what. The Making Strides Against Breast Cancer Walk returns to Milwaukee. We are actually joined right now here on the Wisconsin Live Desk with Lauren and Jessica. Lauren's with the American Cancer Society, and Jessica is a breast cancer survivor. For starters, ladies, thanks so much for joining us here on the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Thanks so much for having us.
Of course. Okay, so I need to learn I just moved here a few months ago, so tell me what we can expect on Saturday from the Making Strides Against Breast Cancer Walk.
Yeah, Making Strides Against Breast Cancer is the American Cancer Society's breast cancer event. It's part of the nation's largest and most impactful breast cancer movement. And what really makes our event so special is that, yes, we are that walk that brings people that have been impacted by breast cancer together, but we also provide that festival environment that really gives people a chance to make memories with their loved ones, honor those that they maybe have lost to breast cancer, from 8 a.m. to about 9:30 when the walk starts. So we'll have a photo booth, food trucks, a karaoke trailer, a Survivor and Thriver tent. And so it's really a beautiful morning for people to come together and really understand what breast cancer means to this community and how we're helping those affected by it.
Yeah, obviously, when someone goes through a breast cancer journey, it can be hard and it can be painful. So I love that you guys really want this environment on Saturday to be more joyful and be more of a celebration and to honor our breast cancer thrivers. I'm curious, is it too late to join? How can we still get involved for Saturday?
It is never too late to join this movement. So for our event on Saturday, you can register ahead of time, which we encourage, because then you'll get emails from me with all the things you need to know about parking, the activities, and people can do that at www.makingstrideswalk.org/Milwaukee, Wisconsin. If you're not able to register ahead of time, you can still come on down. We'll have registration on site, both virtually, and we'll have paper registration forms.
Is there a fundraising goal associated with this walk?
Yeah, so we do have a fundraising goal to fundraise over $200,000 this year as a group, but we never have any fundraising minimums required. Our event is free for people to attend, and it's really to be accessible for all people. We know that right now is not the easiest time, especially if you're going through cancer, and we never want money to be a roadblock to attend this event. So it is completely free. Registration is free. There are no tickets, and there is no fundraising minimum to participate.
I'm curious. I mean, obviously, we really hope you're going to reach that goal of $200,000. How are those funds then distributed and used here in our community? What's the impact of that?
Yeah, it's remarkable. Right now, we currently have $9 million invested in research grants happening right here in our home state of Wisconsin, which is incredible. That means research is happening right here in our Wisconsin laboratories across different campuses that are doing research. We also help provide rides to treatment. That is a huge roadblock for people to get that life-saving treatment, and the American Cancer Society uses these funds raised to help get people to and from treatment with trusted, vetted drivers through our Road to Recovery program. So those are just two examples of what we do right here in Wisconsin. Last year, we gave over 803 free rides to people impacted by cancer to cancer treatment appointments.
Yeah, you guys are doing such, amazing things here in our community to really help those who are going through the fight with breast cancer. And Jessica, I do want to talk to you. I know you are a breast cancer survivor. Would you mind sharing a little bit of your journey with us here on the Wisconsin Live Desk?
Yeah, my journey started in May of 2018. I was 32 years old and 28 weeks pregnant. I was diagnosed with stage 2 triple negative breast cancer while pregnant. Things moved very quickly. I actually completed 4 rounds of chemo while pregnant and then gave birth to a now 7-year-old healthy baby girl named Jocelyn. She is totally thriving. I'd like to point that out. I always say it was a wild ride. You can have chemo, but you couldn't have ibuprofen. Very wild. And then I went on to complete 11 more rounds, and I did the surgeries. I rang the bell. I was like, oh great, I'm done. But unfortunately, about 9 months later, we discovered a golf ball sized tumor in the back of my brain, and found out through surgery that I did have metastatic breast cancer, meaning that my breast cancer had spread now to my brain, meaning I have stage 4 and I am still in treatment. So yes, I am a survivor, but actually I call myself and others that are still in treatment, we're thrivers because we are still in the thick of it. And when you're a stage 4, you don't exactly know when you're going to be done or when you're gonna quote unquote ring a bell, but I like to say we ring a bell at every milestone, and every day is a milestone, every birthday is a milestone. So you just like ring the bell whenever you want to. But I'm happy to report about 2 months ago, I had clean scans, meaning the scans are not detecting any cancer at this time. So, but yeah, so that was about six years ago when they discovered the tumor in the back of my head. So and I went on to have another child via surrogate. He's now 1.5 and wild as can be. So went on to have another child. So it's there's a lot of details that happened over the last 7 years, but that's really the gist of it. So a lot of ups and lots of downs, but I am here, and I'm so so very, very excited to be here.
You are here and you are incredibly resilient. And I mean, what a joy and positivity that we can tell just by meeting you a few minutes ago that you bring with you with life. I'm curious, what would be your main message to anybody who is walking through this journey of having breast cancer right now?
The big one I always say is just keep going. When I look back, yes, there was really bad days. There's really tiring days, but on those tiring days, I remember this was advice I got right away. I don't even think it was advice like through the internet. I think it was from a speech I had heard from a best friend whose friend had passed away. I don't even know, but I felt her. She said, I just needed my friend to keep going. I just one foot in front of the other, just keep going. And I remember thinking that, and I still think that sometimes when I'm really, really tired, or I'm just simply mom tired and career tired, and I think, just keep going. Life is so beautiful, and you just keep going for all the good things. And I tell people, keep those goals. Like, just because we have that wretched stage 4 diagnosis doesn't mean we're dying tomorrow. Like, again, I knew that I wanted to grow my family, and I didn't really care. I'm more than a stat, right? Like, keep that in mind too. You are you, and this is my story, by the way. So just because like my story turned out this way doesn't mean that's your story. Your story is yours and mine is mine. So that you have to keep in the back of your head too. So everybody is unique in that way. But keep going, set goals, keep going. Also find your tribe. I really recommend opening up, whether that's to your colleagues or to just one person. Like, you need those people. And like Lo is talking about, just even opening up to calling the American Cancer Society and getting that support, whether it feels really good to open up and talk about like the struggles, whether it's 2 PM or 2 AM and you're having anxiety about maybe upcoming scans. That's a very common, we call it scan anxiety, right? And sometimes our families just don't really get it. But somebody at the American Cancer Society is more than likely going to get that. So just, I encourage you to open up, tell your story, talk about your feelings. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like I should be taking notes right now, Jessica, because you are speaking such wisdom. I mean, this is great life advice, really, for anyone.
Well, I've been in the thick of it for a really long time, so I've learned a lot of things over the years.
And we appreciate you sharing that wisdom with us. I'm curious, have you ever made it out to the Making Strides walk?
I haven't. This is my first time. I'm so excited. I'm excited to paint the town pink. That has been in the back of my mind. I'm just like, okay, we're going to paint the town pink. I'm just excited to see the sea of pink, and just be inspired. I always say this is the worst club with the best members. So I have met some of the coolest, most, people say like I'm inspiring, but I think like other people are so much more inspiring and have like just, I don't know, I've met just such cool people through this 7-year journey. So I hate that I have cancer, whatever you want to say that I have, but I have met just so many cool people along the way. And I look forward to Saturday because I know there's going to be so many more connections that I'm going to make. So I'm super pumped for Saturday morning.
Yeah, absolutely. You're kind of finding that light amidst some of the darkness. And while we have you guys both here, Lauren, I want to ask you specifically, I know this is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. For anybody watching, what are some maybe the warning signs or the symptoms that we should be keeping our eye out for and know when we should maybe go get something checked out?
Yeah, so I am not a medical professional. I want to, everyone should seek guidance from their primary, from their team of doctors, but let me grab my mammogram information. Just because, again, it's never, if you think something is wrong, I think Jessica is a great advocate of that. She shared that story with us. If you think something is wrong, do not brush it off. Go see a medical professional, get medical advice. But a mammogram, you start screenings when you're around 40 years old. That is the recommendation by the American Cancer Society. But again, every person is different. Like Jessica said, every story is different. Every body is different. If you feel something is off, do not brush it off. We have the tools, we have the resources, we have the medical advancements to catch things early. And that's what the American Cancer Society is so proud of, is we are behind so many of those advancements, so many of those research findings that have found cures, have found different treatments to help women and men who have been impacted by a breast cancer diagnosis live longer. And so if you're going to take anything away from what I am saying as a non-medical advice person, if something is wrong, do not brush it off and follow the guidelines set out by the American Cancer Society, which you can find at cancer.org.
Yeah, absolutely. Always just good to take anything seriously. Jessica, if I remember right, you said you were diagnosed in your early 30s, which would have been before you were supposed to get that first initial mammogram. So I'm curious, was it because you were pregnant that you were seeing a doctor, or did you notice something was wrong?
Yeah, I noticed. You couldn't miss it. Like my lump was actually it was more towards like the top. You couldn't. It was a really big lump. I was 32. Young people get breast cancer too. So that's why it's really important to know your body. And don't forget your armpits too. I think that is a big thing that young people, we forget. And I have a family history actually. So I was always very well of pink. I'm always well aware of Breast Cancer Month, but it was still really important to know my body. Yeah, my cancer actually had nothing to do with the pregnancy. It just happened to be, I was a little, let's just say crap on a luck at the time. Bad timing. But yeah, young people, know your body, if something's wrong. And two, if you go to the doctor and they're like, oh, you're really young, push. Be like, you know what? This is keeping me awake at night. I need you to do an ultrasound or a mammogram, something, because I'm not sleeping. It's really bothering me, this little lump. Or because it can be a pebble size, it can be really small. I'm not trying to make you get anybody really worried, but again, it's just just knowing yourself, if something's just feeling odd, like Lo said, go in and ask about it.
Yeah.
You'd rather like know it's nothing. Most of the time it's probably nothing, but at least you're asking about it.
And if you ever need help finding a provider or need help with that advice, next steps, you have no idea what to do, you currently don't have a primary care provider, the American Cancer Society has a 24/7 hotline that with experts that can help guide you in that direction of where to find your next step. That number is 1-800-227-2345. It's available 24/7. Like Jess said, 2 a.m., 2 in the afternoon. If you need that help, we have it for you, and that guidance and that support. You are not in your journey alone. So be your advocate. Don't take anything lightly. And call us if you need help.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a very good reminder that we need to be our own advocates, but then there's other people who want to walk with you through that journey and help you out. Lauren, before we go, just in case anybody is just now tuning into the Wisconsin Live Desk, can you remind us everything we need to know about Saturday? Because it is not too late to get involved.
No, not too late. Saturday, October 11th at the Henry Meyer Festival Grounds. Most people know that as Summerfest. We are at the South Gate, so the entrance closest to the Hone Bridge in the Milwaukee River where it meets Lake Michigan. It is a free event. There is no fundraising minimum. There is no entry fee. We do encourage registration, so you get all the information of what you need to know, and you can do that at www.makingstrideswalk.org/Milwaukee, Wisconsin. We also have free parking. We'll have food trucks in the morning. We'll have a photo booth. We have a live band at the finish line this year. It will truly be a beautiful day, and all are welcome.
Absolutely. We really want to celebrate all of our breast cancer survivors, thrivers, those who are currently in the fight against this. We're going to paint the town pink. I thank you both so much for joining us here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. And thank you, Jessica, for sharing your story with us. What a lot of wisdom you gave us this afternoon.
Yeah, thanks for having us. We'll come back anytime you'll have us. Thank you.
Perfect. We'll have them back on the Wisconsin Live Desk soon then. And of course, if you do go out Saturday, our very own Mary Stoker-Smith will be there. She's going to MC the event. I know this is a cause near and dear to her heart as well. Speaking of Mary, she'll be joining you here on the Wisconsin Live Desk shortly at 2:30 when we're going to do all things Brewers. But for now, we are going to take another quick break here on the Wisconsin Live Desk, and we'll be back in a few minutes. This is the Wisconsin Live Desk. Welcome back in to the Wisconsin Live Desk. I'm Haley Spittler with you for just a few more minutes. But I want to actually get us out to the White House, where you can see President Trump is currently meeting with the Finnish president. This is the president of Finland. So we're going to listen in on their conversation. Oh, actually, it looks like that feed might have just frozen. I don't think we have that for you, so I will bring you back out here. I think our TVU grid might have just gone down on us. So we will not head out there. Instead, let's take a live look at AmFam, because of course Game 4 of the NLDS is tonight, which is very exciting for, I would argue, any baseball fan here in Wisconsin or in Illinois, unless you're a White Sox fan. So you know what? Take that point and throw it out the door, because there are more than just those two teams in those two states. But Game 4 of the NLDS coming up soon, 8:08. And so whoever, again, wins this either clinches going to the NLCS if you are the Brewers, or if you're the Cubs and you win, you force Game 5 at this place, American Family Field. So that would be on Saturday if we reach Game 5. I do want to see if I can potentially pull up this other feed of the Finland president and President Trump meeting in the Oval Office there. This is the secondary camera, so you'll see we're looking at J.D. Vance there, the vice president. Oh, now we're actually going to also get to see the Finland president and President Trump. So we'll listen in here and see if we can learn anything these last few minutes that I'm with you here on the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Is rather impressive.
Mr. President, thank you so much, Mr. President. First of all, thank you, all of you, in behalf of the State of Israel, for everything that you're doing for my country. I want to know, how do you see the Middle East in a year from now under your leadership, and if you see maybe option for normalization between Israel and Saudi Arabia?
I think it's going to be great. I think it's the hostages will be coming back Monday or Tuesday. I'll probably be there. I hope to be there, and we're planning on leaving sometime Sunday, and I look forward to it. And everybody I see is celebrating in Israel, but they're celebrating in many other countries too. A lot of the Muslim and Arab countries, they're celebrating. Everybody's celebrating. Everybody loves the deal. So it's a great honor to have been working on it, and as you know, it's all finalized and done. We've had a lot of terrifically talented people. We've had tremendous support from UAE, Saudi Arabia, Qatar has been unbelievable. Egypt, as you know, and Jordan, Indonesia. I mean, it's I don't want to leave anybody out. Just so many different countries. It's been incredible. Nobody's seen anything like it. So I think in a year from now, it's going to be great. I think it's going to be great.
Mr. President, how do you rate your chances of winning the Nobel Peace Prize tomorrow?
Well, I don't know. Look, I made 7 deals, and now it's 8. Solved the wars, one going 31 years, one going 34 years, one going 35 years, one going 10 years. I made 7 deals. This would be number 8. The one I thought that I was going to make, and I think we will probably, is because it's a ridiculous war. It's a horrible war. The worst since World War II. If you look at the people dying, is Russia, Ukraine. I think we'll do that too. We've a lot of reasons for them to do it, and I think they'll be coming to the table pretty soon. But this is the biggest of them all. This is a big one. Although I think India and Pakistan is very big. 2 nuclear nations. I did that based on trade and because of the tariffs. If we didn't have tariffs, you wouldn't have been able to do it. But I said, if you guys are going to fight, I'm putting 100% tariffs on each of you. And they immediately stopped fighting, and that was going to go nuclear. You know, that was back and forth. So I know one thing. I don't know what they're going to do really, but I know this: that nobody in history has solved 8 wars in a period of 9 months, and I've stopped 8 wars. So that's never happened before. But they'll have to do what they do. Whatever they do is fine. I know this. I didn't do it for that. I did it because I saved a lot of lives. And that's the thing that bothers me so much about the Russia-Ukraine. 7,000 people are dying a week. Young soldiers. They're almost all soldiers of Ukraine and Russia. So in theory, it doesn't affect us? No.
Alrighty, if you are just joining us, we've been listening in here at this conversation happening at the Oval Office between President Trump and the President of Finland. You can see he's taking questions from the media there, talking about the latest as far as the ceasefire deal made between Israel and Hamas, talking about the release of those hostages, which he hopes to be there in person for, it sounds like, potentially next week. So, of course, we'll continue to follow all of that for you here on the Wisconsin Live Desk, but we're also following for you all things Brew Crew. We're going to take a quick break here, and then coming up on the other side of the break, our very own Mary Stoker-Smith's got you covered for the next hour and a half as we get ready for Game 4 of the NLDS. It's been a blast.